Darn it. I'm gonna have to get back to this one in a minute. I accidentally bumped the live button and I wasn't ready, but I'll be back. Hmm. Well, yeah. Hey, people. Hi. Hey, friends. I didn't have a sign to post up or anything here, but I suppose I'm not late according to my. Okay, it's 7:20, so I'm only 1 minute late. Honestly, didn't really intend on doing a live stream tonight, but I thought it would be kind of interesting. The picture that I used on there on the cover, or the thumbnail rather, was like my dog standing in the pond, but she was standing on this rock. I don't know if you saw it, but it looked like she was standing on the water. I thought about how, because I was looking for a random picture just to post for the video, which was really about kind of idol worship, and walking on water came to mind. Kind of interesting. The idea that there are people out there who believe that there are folks who really have all the answers, or some sort of an insight that can explain the whole world to them. I don't know. So anyway, I just wanted to say hi to everybody. Stoner Bear, hello Early Girl, and Andre. It's good to see you all. Um, it's been strange lately. I don't know how long this live cast is going to last. I don't really know why I decided to make it, except for the fact that I haven't really made a video today, and I thought it would be fun to just kind of make a live cast. But at the same time, I start thinking, why do I even bother? Like, when I make a video, I really get focused in on what I want to say and I accomplish things. Now, live casts can go one of two ways. Either I just turn it off and get bored with it, or B, I have a lot to say and then end up being on here for 2 or 3 hours with several different people and a much deeper conversation. But there are other things I could do right now. It's one of those things where I feel like I should be doing other things. That's my problem, isn't it? I suppose to get to the point, or at least the title subject of the video, to get that over with. Um, um, Early Girl says you're addicted to the tube. Oh, yes, absolutely. I have no doubt. I've been addicted to the internet for the last hmm, 20 years or so, I guess. I mean, there are periods where I've taken off of the internet. Went camping last year for a month. I can take a month off, go out to the woods, and totally enjoy myself. And honestly, I don't feel like I'm really addicted to the internet so much as I use the internet because I'm bored. And if I had other things to do, if I was out traveling and enjoying myself, I wouldn't care as much. However, there's also a part of me that the minute I get home from camping or hiking, I always want to share my experiences through video. And that's a different story altogether. I really enjoy watching hiking videos and exploring videos. The funny thing is, I made a ton of them that I wanted to upload, that I wanted to share with people, and I get around to making them when I'm in the woods. I've got all these recordings of me hiking, filming berries and different plants, and then I just get home and I throw it on a folder. I'm like, nobody wants to see that shit. And I know that people do, but it's a matter of pulling it off there, editing it down, saying, okay, what's a good part to share, and what is just me sitting in my campsite smoking weed or something. You know, thousands of hours of video, tens of thousands of pictures, and just as many videos. It's like, how do you sort through and figure out what matters? Which is why it's kind of ironic that I even upload to YouTube at all, considering all the videos I make that I deem worthless. I figure, well, I'm just going to make one that I'm going to focus on for a moment. I'm going to make a YouTube video, I'm going to upload it, and I'm going to share it. And I do it. But if I don't share it right away, it stays in my unlisted folder. At least every week or so, I upload 2 or 3 videos that I don't actually make publicly available. They're on my channel, they're just not available without a link. So lately, what I've been doing is actually taking those videos that I upload that I don't feel I want to share to my main channel. Maybe they're controversial, maybe they're just, I don't know, not specific enough, but it's not because they're low quality, it's just because I have a variety of reasons not to share it. And I'll put that on my Patreon as a link, which you can still make a video unlisted on YouTube and then post the link and share it with people. But when I do that, I wonder what exactly makes one video better than another one. I mean, what is the value of a YouTube video with high production rate, for example, even? Really great science. A perfect example, because I always go with what comes off the top of my head. I was thinking of Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan. I always pronounce it wrong. Everybody does. In a nutshell, it was a YouTube channel that has really good graphics. At the beginning, they used to explain things about atomic energy, a whole variety of different information. And then gradually over the last couple of years, it just turned into shit. Like, what if we what if the universe was made of milk? You know, not literally, but that kind of stuff that you see on YouTube. Like, what would happen if the whole sun was made of marbles? Or how many, what would it mean? What if the earth was closer to the sun? It doesn't matter because it's not. They're fun experiments, thought experiments, but some of these supposed science or information channels go to just making this. But my point is that they spend, they have dozens of people and they spend hundreds of hours working on animations, on plots, on lines, on the actual narration of these things. Then they go through, they pre approve it, then they post approve it, then they produce it, and then they put it on YouTube. And they get millions of views because people love watching that kind of stuff. But the thing is, it's almost like, where's the obligation to make content that matters? And I've done a lot of thinking about that. There are a few people and a few channels that make content that does matter, but they don't get recognized because most people don't want to hear about the things that matter. And let me just say, I'm not putting myself in the category of things that matter. I might talk about something important, whether it's the drug war or, politics or, religion or things that I consider to be issues. But then sometimes it'll just be me talking about Pokemon or Pogs or, no, actually, Pokemon are one thing I really haven't talked about yet. But anyhow, I've come through a lot in my own life, and I've realized that it doesn't necessarily matter if something you're talking about is really that important. It is the story that it carries. If you're not familiar, some of the greatest storytellers, Joseph Campbell, he was amazing storyteller. He brought a lot of the old, stories, the ancient stories, and the myths and mythologies, and brought them into a modern Western version that we could consume. And yeah, Joseph Campbell is a really smart guy. I don't remember when he passed away, but mm, mm, him and the guy that invented coffee. Yes, I know. There's no one guy that invented coffee. I realize this. So anyhow, to back up for a moment, um, I was going somewhere with all of that, but it really doesn't matter because I'm here to ramble. I'm here for some Q&A, some questions, but as well, as far as the title for the Walk on Water, it was more just this idol worship bullshit that I'm just so sick and tired of. That, and I'm not talking about just. You may think I'm pertaining to the Jesus video I posted the other day, or the guy I was discussing. Not at all. Not even religious. Just the way that people have always been so desperate to think that a person knows what they're talking about. That they let them dictate what they think is true. I mean, just look at Trump and Trumpism and what it caused. Regardless of who you believe or what politics you follow, it's amazing how many people I've talked to since then who have, whenever I bring up Trump to this day, people say, oh, well, you look at your guy Biden. And I'm like, I didn't vote because I wanted to vote. I voted because I didn't, I felt like my options were limited like anyone else. It doesn't matter. It's the same old politics every fucking election season. The point being that there was a cult of personality around Trump that I don't see around Biden. In other words, a lot of people had just said, great, it's another old man in office. And that's how I feel to this day about Biden. I'm not excited to hear anything he has to say or in any of his discussions about politics. I'm just like, oh, stay away. I just don't care. And it's almost like at a point you want to just kind of let go of politics altogether. But not to get into politics themselves, but there's a lot of idol worship in politics, just like there is in religion. The way that people look at one another and treat one another according to their status or who they think they are, I guess. I'm going to flip through and read the comments real quick. I can hear my kids in the next room. Trump is only 4 years younger. Yeah, exactly. It is funny that you say that. Trump is only 4 years younger. They're both old coots, in my opinion. It's always been old men running this country. But yeah, that's another story altogether. I'm not sure what to make of that one. Anyhow, I think that worshipping individual people, worshipping politicians, musicians, artists, it doesn't matter who it is. It's a huge problem. Even when people accuse people of being Marxists, I'm like, if a person is a Marxist, they are an idiot. Because they shouldn't be following Marx. Karl Marx was just one guy. Do I agree with some of the ideals he had and some of his theories? Sure. But there is no one individual in history, in all the philosophical studies I've done that I've heard, that I've said, wow, that guy really knows what he's talking about completely. St. Thomas Aquinas and Nietzsche with his nihilism and the way it was misinterpreted. I've got my own theories on philosophy, and they are so far away from what the mainstream is that I don't even talk philosophy with people anymore. In fact, 5 years ago, I called myself a philosopher, and today I really don't ever even bring that word up. I hate that word because it brings up this academic version of philosophy where, oh, I learn about other philosophers, which was never what it was about to me. I just mean I love wisdom, I love to learn. But there are so many people who define who they are and define what they believe based on these different philosophers that they've heard in the past, which I understand we have to build our bricks off of what we've, read before. We can't just create our own books, our own studies. We have to use a language, right? Nobody creates their own language and their own book and their own belief system. It's always built off of something else. So, at any rate, it's a complicated thing. Hold on a second. It's recording. So you know. Anything can be an idol. You're damn right. Andre says no one over. God damn this phone. Oh, I really hate technology sometimes. It pisses me off. No one over 65 should be president. I don't believe that at all for a minute. Honestly, a lot of the younger people have just as many problems because they haven't figured out what life's all about yet. But I don't know. That's a tough one. If you can still have a license, you should still be able to be president, right? But I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, where was I? Well, thank you, Stoner Bear. I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate the donation, my friend. Really Girl says, I feel it would change more and more quickly for the rest of my life, so I'm just another person who feels important things are slipping, or is it true? Well, it's funny you asked that. I've thought about the same thing. Are we really losing certain values and certain things that were important to our society in the past? Are we losing touch with what we used to have as far as something that was very important to us as a culture, as a species, as a race, whatever you might want to associate yourself with? And I don't know. I feel like, like somebody, like you said, every generation thinks that the next generation is losing something. I feel like it's just a growth. It's just something different. At least I did up until recently, when I did see that the recent cultures, some of these upcoming generations seem to be fairly disrespectful to one another, to their elders, to pretty much everyone. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of disrespect out there, but I can see it comes from a place of angst, of frustration, people not knowing what to do, who to turn to, and how to feel like their life is worth something in this world, if you know what I mean. I don't know what it's like to grow up in today's world. When I was younger, I remember being told that, if you just get a degree, just get a good education, you'll be happy, you'll be set for life. You can retire, get a 401k. And I knew this was bullshit when I was younger. But it was unfortunate that I wasn't quite sure. I didn't know, exactly what was going to happen in my lifetime, whether I was going to grow up in a world where it was utter chaos. Anything can happen at any time. But even if the world goes on without any major natural disasters that affect the whole world, even with COVID, things like that, things are moving along just fine until there's a major asteroid impact or a nuclear winter, right? And then all of a sudden everything changes, and you figure, well, school was pointless, all these things were pointless. But education is never pointless, it's always useful. There's always something you can do with what you've learned, usually. At the very least, just giving you a wider view of the world around you. And that's why, even though I knew that college was pretty much pointless for me, at the very least, I could educate myself on the things that I thought were important. I didn't care much for getting a bachelor's degree in anything, but there are times when I wanted to go back and do that, and so I don't know. Maybe it's worth going back for. But as somebody said, like a comment that somebody left a minute ago, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on philosophy. The whole point being here that nobody's points are really that valid. Nobody's points are really that worthy. Philosophy, as I said before, means, by definition, love of wisdom. Philo, philo means love. And Sophia means wisdom. Philosophia, or philosophy, means love of wisdom. And it's funny because every time I say wisdom, I almost feel like the word is tainted. Like there is part of society that has made it a bad thing to be a smarty pants. You see what I mean? Like, oh, you're just one of those guys who wants to be smart, and I'm not talking about intellectually smart. I am utterly annoyed by the people who use book smarts as some sort of stick their noses up and think that, oh, they're superior because they use all these heavy language, which to me means nothing. I've made it a point to try to dumb down the way I speak. Not because I think people are dumb, but because I think we're all dumb. And it's much easier for our brains to pick up what a person's saying when they're putting it in basic layman terms. So I have no desire to go out and use complicated, you know, rhetoric to try to get your attention, to try to make you think that I'm smart. Because you already know I'm a genius. Of course. I can hear my son playing guitar out there. He's playing with a friend of his that they've been jamming with, and they're writing a song right now. So, yeah. Anyway, King says, "What's up, King?" Or, yeah, King Dairy Queen. Nice. I got a question. Can I ask a question? Dude, ask away. I mean, in other words, don't ask if you can ask a question. Just ask the question. Because I'm here to answer questions. And I probably won't be here all that long. Probably less than an hour. I just wanted to kind of touch base, and I wanted to do a regular Sunday live stream. I wanted to start recording my thoughts out loud and live on a regular night, because a lot of people have said, hey, I always miss your live stream, I can't catch it. Some people are across the pond, they're asleep right now, I'm sorry. I can't cater it to everybody. I try to make it at a time that's reasonable, but it's in the evening for me. So yeah, I think when I do these, even though I titled them as something in a topic I'm going to talk about, I end up answering questions the whole time because I enjoy it. I like talking with people and getting others' perspective on life and wondering what they want to know. And let me just say, that's not out of arrogance because I think I know, because I don't. I might start live streaming through Patreon, but I'm not sure how that works or if it would be better or if I should just use YouTube instead. Honestly, Patreon's still too small for me to really make it a viable endeavor. But I still appreciate my patrons. I know some of you help donate each month, and that's pretty awesome. So keeps me going, keeps me motivated. Let's see if we have the question yet. Stoner Bear says you may. King says, I got caught in the middle of a cross gunfire at the gas station and I considered that a safe gas station. Why me? I trusted God. And I prayed for not having bad dreams there. I go, I have a sexual dream. I was giving my full life to Christ this weekend. Okay, well, first off, I don't believe that giving your Christ, I mean, you may have seen the video I did the other day talking to Jesus people. I don't know. Hopefully nobody took it offensively. I talked with the guy for a half hour and I walked away going, hey man, have a good day, and said goodbye to his friends too. So, I mean, it must have not been a bad conversation. But the point being that I don't believe that giving your life to anybody, or whether it's Christ or anyone else, really makes a difference. But what really matters is how we handle ourselves and our minds. And what I'm going to say is that, if you were at a gas station, from what I read, it says you considered that a safe gas station. We always consider something safe until it's not safe. So, and you said you trusted God. Well, God isn't really trustworthy in my experience. And you said I prayed for not having bad dreams, and you had a sexual dream. Well, here's the thing I'd like to say about dreams. I'm not going to call myself an expert, but I spend a lot of time researching dreams, lucid dreams, and doing lucid dreaming, having recurring dreams, monitoring and writing them down and recording them. And what I learned about dreams is that if you try to force yourself not to think about something, you're going to think about it. Okay, so do not think about a pink bunny. You already did, right? I mean, there's no way to avoid it. Every single one of these tests is always the same. You put two words together, people instantly think about it. Pink bunny, all right, you've already seen it in your mind. If you tell yourself, I don't want to see a pink bunny, you're going to be dreaming about pink bunnies. And so the thing is just to, I guess, no pun intended, get sucked down the rabbit hole. Just let it flow. There's nothing wrong with sexuality. There's nothing wrong with how you feel about yourself. Maybe if you're having sexual dreams and it's a Christ issue, perhaps you're repressing yourself. I don't know. But remember, we're just human, you know. We're animals, whether we like it or not, in one way or another. So, then King of Dairy Queen says, you're a false prophet. Never mind. Wow. Wow, that's nice, dude. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Stop. Wow. It's sad to me that somebody would actually ask if they can ask a question, and when I give them an answer, and you don't want to hear it, it's not like I'm telling you not to believe. I'm just saying I don't personally have the same beliefs you do, but I really don't know where you're coming from. But a false prophet, let me tell you something. Every prophet is a false prophet. If you can show me a prophet today that isn't profit, that is PROFIT with a dollar sign in it, then I'd love to see them, because every one of us wants to know that there are legitimate prophets out there that can tell us the future. But that's what a prophet is by definition. And I'm not telling you the future. I'm just telling you how it is right now, my friend. So, in all respect, much love. Okay, Amy says, he had a dream last night. It struck me as significant and symbolic. I like the dog in my dream. Still not worked it out yet. Be careful analyzing your dreams, my friend, because honestly, I don't believe in any of these dream sites or interpretation. Yeah, I'm cautious about that one because I've had some really weird ones lately. Early Girl says, I don't think Carp would claim to be a prophet. No, thank you. No, absolutely not. Mm. Stoner Bear says, when you dream, your brain releases DMT. I've heard this, and actually, let me just put it this way. Your brain produces endogenous DMT. Yes. It may release it while we dream. It appears to be released from, we've all heard this, the pineal gland, which, yes, can calcify and cause issues, but there's no real evidence to show that it's a spiritual center, but it does release perhaps DMT and definitely melatonin, which helps us sleep. And there's a lot of science behind this, but at the same time, um, when you dream, your brain may use DMT, but we can't be sure because it's hard to measure. It's measured. It can't be measured in the brain while you're alive, but they have found it after death or in animals, showing that it may be definitely produced by humans when you dream. But yeah, DMT is a wild one, dude. I've been hanging on to this. Well, let's just say I've been hanging on to this Deemsters for quite a while, just waiting for the right moment. And there was one time a few years back where I was sitting by a campfire and I was out with family and friends. Everybody was asleep. Everybody had gone to bed. I was sitting there. It was midnight. The fire was crackling. Total silence by myself. I was bust out the DMT. And I took a few huge puffs. I like to go deep and just watch the fire turn into a tornado of souls. Just this energy of, I can't explain it. Only if you've been there can you know what I'm talking about. But it's a wild ride. I'd love to talk more about DMT, DMT entities, psychedelics, LSD, all these things, and I just don't anymore on my channel because YouTube has been giving me strikes and censoring my shit whenever I do. So what I did was all the videos that they haven't struck about kratom, about LSD, mushrooms, all this. I went through, spent a couple hours the other day, isolated them all into my private folder, and then put the links on my Patreon. I was like, at least my patrons can get something extra. If you really are, a lot of my patrons have learned a lot about kratom and they want to learn more. So I just say, hey, go to the kratom, videos. But I do discuss this a lot. Is the point, and I want to talk about it more because DMT has been a wild ride. It's a very wild chemical, but there might be kids watching my channel. It makes it really hard to know where to go and how deep to go on these issues. It's tricky. Early Girl says, question, I'm not a patron right now due to money constraints. Please, let me just put it this way. I want to make it clear, whenever I mention Patreon, I feel awkward. I do not want a person ever to feel. In other words, if you feel like you have any money constraints whatsoever in your life, don't ever think that I would expect a person to donate through Patreon. I know some people can afford it and they don't mind and they want to, and that's why I put it up there. In fact, I resisted Patreon and donations for the first like decade of my channel until people had said you should. People want to donate, and so I said, okay, I'll set it up, and that's why I do it. But I figured the more I make in there, that the more that I can do on my channel. But anyway, she says, if you ever did a live Zoom call with Patreon members, I think it would be cool. Maybe some good conversations. It's a great idea. Actually, I set up a Zoom account last year for the first time, so I could start doing, because I did an interview for somebody else's podcast. It was called 13 Questions, and you should check it out. It's mostly questions to men about manhood. It was really interesting, and but anyhow, I set up Zoom for that, and I actually have Zoom that I would love to set up a group chat, but it has to have a purpose. In other words, I've had a couple of people be like, "Oh, let's just have a discussion or a podcast," and they get frustrated when I'm like, "Well, what's the topic?" I'm like, "Well," or they're like, I said, "What's the topic?" They say, "Oh, we'll just talk about whatever. It doesn't matter." Like, well, I really would like to have an itinerary of what I'm going to talk about because that really helps. But I think that's a good idea, especially for patrons. I do appreciate that. KC says, I was supposed to send you some crystals, but you never gave me a P.O. box. Dude, I'm sorry. And on the recent video, I just posted this, but one of my subscribers sent me this, like, It was awesome. Some collector's stamps, as well as another subscriber sent me this really cool 1900 Indian head penny. And then somebody sent me these tapes, two cassette tapes. It was called Alan Watts and the Beat Way. Really cool. I mean, but anyway, if people want to donate, you're more than welcome to. I don't have a P.O. box, but if you email me at carpo420 at comcast.net, I'll send you the address. KC says, do you like salvia? Oh, God. Oh, that's a tricky one. Okay, so about 12 to 15 years ago, I'm going to say, one of my friends said that I hadn't seen in a long time, said he came across this stuff called salvia. It was 60x, supposedly. He said, I tried it, it was too much, and he gave it to me. I smoked some, it was wild. I've never had an experience like that. I didn't really like it or try it for a while. And for like years, I'd carry it with me to all festivals and concerts and tell people, I've got salvia if you want to try it, when people would bring it up. And watch people, if they do try it, be like, oh, and it puts you in such a weird, stupid state that it's almost creepy. I don't like it. It makes me feel weird and dirty. Can't explain it. However, I can see it having benefit when it's used properly. Salvia is also known as diviner's sage. It's a very specific strain of sage, and I believe it's from Oaxaca, Mexico. I know it's from Mexico. Is it Oaxaca? Anyway, there's all of them come from this original strain, which is super potent. Contains this strange compound in it, and yeah, I don't know what I think about salvia. It contains what they call salvinorum A, as well as other compounds. I haven't touched it in probably 10 years, so I hope that answers your question. I'm scared of it. Thank you, early girl. Azin, hey, Ayan Zerowith. I've always had a hard time pronouncing your name. He says, I panhandle to make all my money. I haven't seen you in a while, and I hope you're doing well. I know you're having hard times with your family. I'm not positive if you're over in the UK or over in Scotland, Europe, somewhere. I remember you were saying that you had problems with your family, and I hope things are working out for you. I really do. Panhandling is a tough one. I mean, you can make pretty good money doing it. There are people who make a damn good living, more money than I do by standing out and asking, but hopefully it's working towards something better. But if that works for you, right on. Bump, 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 bump. Salvia, Stoner Bear says, yeah, it's quick. It's quick indeed. Huh. Ian says, someone gave me a tab of acid and I got jacked in the subway. That's fucked up, man. Yeah. Acid isn't something I take just on a whim. Acid is something I prepare for, and I almost say a prayer for. Prepare for and say a prayer for, right? Blue Bottle Bunny Farm says he's holding Dimitri and waiting for the right time. So am I. And I want to say, I do talk about drugs on my channel. I want anybody watching to know that I take drugs very seriously. I'm not a druggie. I'm not a drug abuser. I'm a drug user at times, just like most Americans are. In fact, a quarter of America to a half of America is hooked on some pharmaceutical, which they consider to be okay because their doctor gave it to them, whether it be an anxiolytic, an antidepressant, Prozac is okay, but don't smoke weed kind of attitude that people have had for way too fucking long, and I think it's ridiculous. But the point being that I have substances that I've been hanging on to for years that I won't touch. In fact, I bought some from a long time ago, some pharmaceutical grade crystal ketamine from somebody, and people have told me, you'd love it. You like nitrous oxide. You would like it. You'd love it. And I say, I probably would. They're like, why don't you try it? I said, because maybe there's two reasons. A, because I'm extremely careful and cautious and a little bit wary about trying anything new. And B, probably because I would like it. I want people out there to realize if there's something that you're told you would really like, sometimes it's better not to try it. I've been hanging on to these a couple of substances that people have told me I would really enjoy that I've never tried. And you know what? Until I'm on my deathbed, whether I'm 100 years old or older or younger, I probably will still not try these substances because it gives me something to look forward to. It's hard to explain, but the novelty wears off really quick. Anything, any substance. I don't want to compare it to heroin. People say the first time you try heroin, it's amazing, and after that, it goes to shit. And that's absolutely true, people say. Personally, I haven't tried it because it's one of those things, one of those few substances I said I'm not going to mess with. And I think it's for that reason because it's not worth, yeah. So anyway, moving on. Infected Chris says, "Who else remembers the salvia panic from 10 years ago?" That's funny you say that because that reminds me when I got that salvia from that guy. It was probably 12 years ago, and it was right after that when everybody was panicking about salvia. It was the same way that people were panicking about cannabis, the same way people were panicking about mushrooms, the same way people panicked in the 70s about this new rave drug called MDMA. And all these things are coming back around as being just fine. Salvia is still sold in the head shop down the street, okay? But then over time we got spice. Spice is actually dangerous. Synthetic cannabinoids, those ones can cause problems. But the thing is, the users tried them and decided they didn't like them. And for the most part, most people don't fuck with it. There's always going to be a few people who try a substance and abuse it. But there's one substance on top of all these drugs that have been thrown around that people that these parent groups have said, "Oh my God, it's going to harm our kids. They're selling this in school," and we find out it doesn't matter whether it be acid, anything else. What is the one thing that really does matter? Fentanyl. And I made a video about it the other day. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. But it's basically pretty self-explanatory. Fentanyl is found in all the pills. Most of the pills, Vicodin, OxyContin, oxycodone, well, Percocet otherwise, they're all fake these days. You can hardly get a prescription for those from anyone. If you do get these pills and you buy them on the street and they are printed and they're not in their original bottle, you can guarantee these pills are fakes. You can get fentanyl test strips. I highly recommend people to do this. To not take anything like this, but it's in all the heroin too. So this is something that actually isn't just some scare where people get too high, run out in the street naked and might get hurt. People overdose and die. So the fentanyl issue is really a big problem. It's the first drug that's really come up where it is worth the panic. Sorry to get off track there. So yes, Early Girl says, plan ahead for the Patreon thing. Yeah, that might be a good idea. Thanks. Um, Casey says, weed gives me anxiety. Yeah, me too. It does. It does. It happens. You know what? I'm actually, as I'm flipping through your comments, I'm sad that the one guy who was here earlier talking about Jesus left because I didn't agree with him. I was thinking about this the other day after I posted that video about talking to Jesus people, and I was thinking about how I really want to understand other folks and their opinions and how they really refuse. Like the minute I talk about what I believe, I have been accused of being a false prophet, satanic, devil's minions, that I'm going to go to hell. I've been accused of being evil, hateful. I've been accused of being a pedophile by Christians just because I don't believe in their version of Christ. Even though I say he had a good message, I believe in a Christ consciousness. I believe in an awareness of Christ, but not in the sense that I have to get on my hands and knees and beg to Christ for forgiveness. Something that doesn't make sense to me, and I mentioned this the other day. The title of this live cast was about this. False idols. When it's in the Bible itself, it says those should have no false idols, and no idol worship is a major part of most religions, which is why in Islam you don't draw a caricature of Muhammad, even though 100 years ago. I have a book here that has a bunch of caricatures of Muhammad. It just depends on what generation you're in, what era. And with Jesus, it's the same way. There are some sects of Christianity which refuse to acknowledge any picture of Jesus or any depiction of a cross, crucifixion, or anything like that, because they believe that they are very serious about their biblical attachment, and they think that in their belief, they say that the Bible says, you know, not only thou shalt have no God before me, but thou shalt not only false idols, but thou shalt not idol worship. It's an idea. I think what this was meant to be within the Bible, within Christianity and other religions, was a way to tell the people, you need to look at the beauty in nature and see the bigger picture of the creation, but don't get hung up on the details. To me, that is the ultimate metaphor. I mean, it is the epiphany of what it means to be spiritual. To look at all religions and say, I get this. I understand. But I don't understand. You see what I mean? You get it, but you don't get it. I could probably talk about religion and spirituality every single day. It could be a topic over breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But the reason I don't is because it gets old quick. People don't want to hear the same old excuses or reasoning for why people believe what they believe. We find this niche that works for us, and then we share it with other people. The problem is that the problem is not what people believe. The problem is what people believe about what other people believe. Let me reiterate that. It's not an issue of what religion you have or what God you believe in. The problem is often how you feel and how you treat people who believe in a different God than you do. In other words, as I discussed that with that guy the other day, that Buddhists often have their own perspective that any religion is right. And when I was discussing with that guy, I said that as long as you're following Jesus's path and following your heart, do you really need an idol? Do you really need to get on your hands and knees and beg for forgiveness if you feel you've done nothing wrong? And they will tell you that you're righteous, that you're arrogant, that everyone sins, that everyone does wrong. I think these are things that have to be worked out within the person and the individual. It's like somebody actually left a comment the other day on that video that said, hey, in a nutshell, be careful talking because there's a lot of Jesus freaks and you might isolate a bunch of your audience. Totally agree on that. I know that Christianity in this country has a 75% following, or at least that associate with religion in this country. I think 2/3 are Christians, and then another percentage are other religions, whether it be Catholic, Protestant, Presbyterian, evangelical. There are a lot of different sects of Christianity out there, and everyone believes their own thing. But generally, I'm the minority because I don't believe what they believe. So therefore, yes, I do marginalize part of my audience, but my hope is that it's worth my time, it's worth my effort, because I'm not trying to isolate or instigate. I'm trying to build a discussion and a type of dialogue with people, I guess. So, I'm going to back up real quick here, and I'm going to read through your comments while I take a drink of beer. I'm sorry, Stoner Bear, that your friend Hector died because of it. It's fucked up. It's really fucked up. My niece died last year. It's difficult. Actually, it was 2 years ago now. Almost a year and a half. It goes by fast when you lose people you love, especially when they're young. Early Girl says, the sad thing about religions is it indoctrinates. It's just that. I grew up with very narrow beliefs and it hurts you. Yes, exactly. Restricted thinking. Well, that's just the thing. This is why I talk to people about religion. It's not because I'm trying to change adults' opinions. It's that, God, I'm hoping to reach, no pun intended, I'm hoping to reach a couple of at least, not just young people, but adults that can help to direct young people that it's okay to look into other things and believe other things and understand other things. I've had friends who were brought up Christians and they were miserable a lot of the time. Tell you a quick story. One of my friends and I, his name was Mike, and his mom was a church going. She was a librarian. She was very mild mannered. It was him and his brother, his little brother, and his older sister. And they lived with their mom, single mom. She was a librarian. She went to church every Sunday and took them. And Mike and I used to hang out and go skateboarding. Then we started growing mullets. Then we got to be about 15 or 16. And then I remember one day, every morning on Sunday, I'd stay the night on Saturday, sleep in his attic room. And then his mom would be like, "We gotta go to church, Michael. Michael." She was the mom who was like, we used to mock her when not around her, but she's like, "Michael, where's that nice sweater I bought you?" She came up one time and it was just hilarious. This typical like, wow, this ultimate mom, nanny, aunt type character, and she screams up the stairs one Sunday morning. She goes, "Michael, it's time to go to church." And she goes, "Michael?" She's like, "Michael!" She keeps screaming, and he goes, "Fuck you, I'm not going." That was the end of that. He never went to church again. Um, that was it for church for Mike. He never went back. I haven't seen him in years, but anyway, that was just a story I had to share. Okay, so anyway, Holmes says, "You're human. I feel a sincere spirit guidance and love behind the name of Jesus. Even when purposefully trying to debunk it all, it draws me and has pulled me back every time." Me too. But not the name Jesus or particular adherence to a set of beliefs, but rather just the idea that there is something greater. As I brought up the other day, the name Jesus didn't exist 2,000 years ago. You can call him Jesus or Josua or Yod-He, Vau-He, or Yahweh, the old Hebrew names for God, which have always fascinated me. But the idea is it shouldn't matter what you call anything. I know it's really, 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 really tempting to want to believe that the Bible has all the answers, but I think it's more rewarding to understand that the world doesn't have all the answers. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a tough one. Hello, Bright77. It's good to see you. Yes, 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 yes. Hello, Tepan. The world needs more carpo. Oh, God, no. Fuck. Whoa, don't do that to me. No, the world doesn't need more carpos. The world needs less carpo. I'm a weirdo. What we can accomplish with faith, belief, manifesting for the truth and betterment of humanity. Home, I want to believe that. I do. I believe that we can manifest a lot, but as I've mentioned before, I don't believe that faith and belief has manifested very much for the betterment of mankind. I think one thing that's disturbing to me is that so much of the extreme religious groups, they dispute science and ridicule science. When meanwhile, I'm asking, when's the last time that religion brought us better packaging or better food, better methods of harvesting and tractors and things that help us live our lives better. I would say cell phones, but they just cause havoc. But you know what I mean. It's not that these things are the be all end all. People would in fact say that a lot of these inventions were just the devil's minions and creations. But the fact is, a lot of these things helped us to lead happier and better lives. And I think that, let me give you an example. Somebody said something about, I mentioned Christian Science the other day, and somebody said, well, they're probably at least Christians who respect science. And I said, actually, on the contrary, they're the direct opposite. It's like the ultimate, the last thing you would expect. Christian Science actually are the people who do not allow their kids to go to doctors when they have illnesses, even though there are cures and things to fix this, and they have this idea that God will cure the kids, and if they don't, well, that's God's will. Even though these are easily curable diseases in the modern day. And so meanwhile, this faith healing isn't really doing much compared to the science and the medicine. So it's really hard for me to say I don't have full faith in science. Hell no. No pun intended again. But I have a hard time seeing what religion has manifested for the betterment of humanity. That's me anyway. Yeah. Of your grandfather, huh? That's funny. Silver bullion. My guy, Tape says, my guy's $258 worth of silver bullion. I'm humbled and blown away. It was formed in multiple stars. You know what, my friend? I love that comment. I love that comment. Where is my silver? I just had it. Well, it's probably gone now. Probably lost it. But anyway, I just did this video the other day where I was talking about silver and gold. And, oh, well, it don't matter, I guess. I had a couple of gold bars here. Sorry, silver bars. Gold bars. I wish I could afford gold bars. Um, but yeah, I just had a couple of silver bars here. And, oh, here we go. I was going to show you that. Because the thing is, my copper, my 1 pound copper bars that I have, which are, worthless, probably like $5. But this was the same thing. I'm gonna guess this is a 10-ounce copper bar, so it's probably worth about, well, you just said 258, so I'm guessing it's worth 25.80 an ounce based on your, because I haven't been following it, but it's between 20 and 25 and 30 these days. But yeah, this is minted from the strategic stockpile of silver at the USA Assay Office. And anyway, I've been carrying this thing for years, and I love touching it. I love feeling it. It was minted in the middle of stars, and it's funny, I forget that. A lot of people don't realize this, but when a star is collapsing in on itself, the extreme gravity actually changes molecules. It's in a plasma state, right? So the electrons are kind of free-flowing in this soup. It condenses it, and it forms these new molecules like lead, copper, silver, gold. They blow up. Billions of years later, they end up as planets as they coalesce. Then there's volcanic activity, which actually pushes extremely hot water through these fissures and cracks in the rock. And this water actually is hot enough to heat up and melt the gold, which pulls it into these veins, these cracks. So the hot water pulls the gold into these stretched out cracks and veins. Millions of years later, these men come in and they blast it out, and they find it along with a bunch of quartz. They say, oh, there's quartz here, so there must be gold. These are all volcanic things. It's not that the volcanoes create the gold. It's that the volcanoes condense the molecules of gold, or the atoms of gold, into these blobs. I love gold. I can't afford to have any gold myself, but I would absolutely love to have a gold bar just to smash and just fuck with and make sheets out of. And if it wasn't like, $1,800 an ounce, I'd probably be all over it because it's fascinating. But thanks for the comment there. That reminded me of just how awesome it is to really look at metal. But I definitely wouldn't say it's my god. It's just awesome. Infected Chris says, oh no, Boston has a huge Christian Science building downtown. Yeah, Christian Science actually has a lot of money. It was founded by a lady named Mary Eddy Baker, okay? And sometimes I just blow myself away with the fact that I know all this shit about obscure religions. Like, why did I learn this stuff? Even learning about Joseph Smith and Mormonism and the golden plates and the translations and how they were taken and hidden by this guy, and then new ones came up that were different. I have a Christian Science Bible up here, actually, and it's pretty weird. But Mary Eddy Baker's the one that came up with it. And yeah, they have a lot of property and money, just like most churches do. So, Holmes says, science and God go hand in hand, obviously, if we admit to being a creation, especially. I would like to say, it's funny, I'd like to point this out when it comes to creation. I discussed this with the guy the other day. He said he believes he's a creationist, a 6,000-year creationist. And he's like, I said, well, I believe in evolution. However, I'm not discounting that we are created. What if it's somewhere in the middle? to where creation is an unfolding over time, like the blooming of a flower. Imagine this. When you see a rose before it becomes a rose, it's a bud, right? And it doesn't make it any less of a rose because it's a bud. It's still in the process of unfolding. And then all of a sudden it bursts open with all its color and glory, and it becomes this beautiful rose. And then gradually it withers and dies, just like the universe, right? Creation, unfolding. But even after that rose dies, it leaves behind a rose hip. And that rose hip is loaded with vitamin C. And there are seeds which can grow new rose plants. And this is I think the perfect metaphor for the unfolding of creation and the metaphor for what evolution and creation are. They are the same thing. And I've never heard anyone talk about this. I hear talked about so many times when people are like, "Oh, I'm a creationist." They're like, "Well, I'm an evolutionist." I'm like, "What if evolution is creation? It's just a lot fucking slower than a 7-day thing." You see what I mean? The way that humans like judge everything based on what we understand. Trying to say, okay, the earth was created in 7 days. Come on, give me a break. Why? Because a week sounds like a work week to us? I mean, you think about it. That could be 7 billion years for all we know. We just, you know, maybe some of these stories are true. Maybe if Christians were more likely and they were more able and willing to compromise on the meanings and the metaphors behind the biblical passages, more people would start to accept Christianity. And that's just a side note for any Christians out there. I'm not harshing on you. I'm just saying that if you really want people to believe these things, you have to be willing to say, maybe I don't quite understand what this meant. It was translated from Hebrew after all. Maybe there's something else to this. You know, maybe Revelation wasn't really about the day I'm living in right now or the end times, you know. And I know that most Christians aren't the extreme ones, so, you know. But when we take these leaders and these people and we follow them and we believe that they are these gurus and these great teachers, you know, it's the same thing I tell people. Don't follow me. Don't listen to what I'm telling you. Some of the greatest gurus that I've learned from have said the same thing. It's the best lesson I've learned. They've said, dude, listen to what I tell you, but don't follow it. Go do your own research. Do your own understanding. Then come back to me and come back to these thoughts if you find that you can agree. If not, that's fine, because we don't always see things the same way. We are human, after all. Infected Chris says he was a penny hoarder as a kid, huh? You found a coffee can filled with 1982 pennies. That's funny. Yeah, 1982 pennies are worth right now about 2.4 cents in copper melt value. Here's the thing. The zinc in modern pennies after 82 is actually worth a little bit less than a penny in zinc melt value, and eventually that metal will be worth more than the American dollar. They're trying to get rid of change for more reasons than people realize. I have where is it? Yeah, every time I get quarters, instead of taking them to the bank, I put them in these rolls and save them up as many as I can. I've got this. This is my favorite copper bullion right here. These were ordered. They've got the nice rigid sides and everything. This says, if I can get the right side. Yeah, it's got this on one side. It's got the buffalo, and it says 2 trade unit. Here we go. And then on the other side, it's got a picture of an elder or a chief. It's a Lakota tribe. And they issued these 2010, I think. And I definitely did pay more than these were worth. I think I paid, you know, like $10 for that or something. So it's like, what, a pound for $10. I probably paid 3 times the face value or the melt value of copper. But I bought it more as a novelty. And I give those away to people sometimes. I honestly love to just give shit away. Like things like this. To like one out of every like 100 customers or something, I give them one of these $5 billion bills from the Bank of Zimbabwe right before the bank collapsed. It's literally a real $5 billion bill. It has a strip in it and everything. Yeah, it's real currency, or it was before the economy collapsed. But just cracks me up every time I look at it because I have $45 billion here. I think I bought $100 billion. But there was one bill, I think, that was the one that was the most desirable. And if I'm not mistaken, it was well, I know they had $100 billion bill, but I'm not positive. I think they may have had $1 trillion bill. And, but the collector's value on those is way too high for me to get one. So, anyway, back to business here. I'm going to read through the comments real quick. Chris wants to do some prospecting. Hell yeah, if you ever make it out here, man, you come pick me up, drive me out to the desert. I got a metal detector. We'll go out and go find some gold. I don't believe that. I don't believe in space. I'm a flat earth person. Stoner Bear, you're really a flat earth person? Or is that just a joke? I can't tell anymore, but I have respect for those who do, because I understand it's easy. It really is easy to get sucked into the rabbit hole on those flat earth beliefs. But you go back to Galileo and you start to look at the history, people will tell you, oh, they knew the earth was flat a long time ago. You'll find out that no, nobody was promoting that except fundamentalist Christians, because they wanted to convince themselves that the Bible passage which talked about the firmament of the earth, or the firmament over the flat earth, or the way that they perceived it, really there's no reason to believe that the earth is flat at all. But that's, to their own. To each their own, right? Low battery. I need to get my batteries. Damn it. Vaping. It's not healthy. Millennials think 7 days is probably too long now. Will never be a cog in the system says, you going to be putting any cannabis outside this year or your garden? I might, but I live in Washington. We can't do it up here. So if I do, I can't talk about it. And if I do, I might put them in Oregon at my mother-in-law's place. So when people are talking about change in here and pennies and stuff, sometimes it's worth it actually to sell your pennies for the collector's value if you have older pennies. A lot of people are into that. So I gotta go soon here. I have to go to the bathroom though, so I'm gonna leave you all to leave your final questions, and then I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then I'm gonna return and answer your final questions if you have any. I don't know why you would ask me any questions, but feel free to post them. I'll be back in a moment. What a crazy world to live in, right? I mean, Jesus Christ. No pun intended. So I just finished a little while ago. I tried to be motivated today. It's really hard lately. I've had some hard times. I built this little greenhouse. My wife wanted to do a greenhouse off from the house, basically right on the other side of this wall outside. Little area we don't use, usually just has a bunch of junk stored there. Just hung some 2x4s off the rafters, put a couple shelves in there. One of those things where it worked out perfectly with 2x4s between the rafters. It was the same width as these shelves that I had, and I was like, wow, this is great. Wrapped it with plastic, and now we're going to put some fluorescent lights in there, 3 layers, and have all our lighting. And I'm really excited for the garden this summer. I'm really excited to share with you all, like, my harvest. I feel like, my dream, honestly, as a YouTube, like, video maker, right, would be to just make videos of my farm and just share building projects and harvesting and things like that. I mean, that would be epic. I feel like my life is just kind of, let me just rephrase that. My productive life is lacking. My family life is wonderful. I feel grateful to be alive. My health is good, but I just don't have that motivation. It's like I feel like I need to get a piece of land to work on. I've thought about going in with a group of people. I'd like to get like 100 acres, and you can get 100 acres up here for like 100 grand. I mean, if you find the right place, it's just a matter of finding the right place. So, yeah, anyway, that's another story. Altogether, I'll flip through the comments real quick. I like your Christian Science reading room, Carpo. Yeah, thanks, my friend. Thanks, Mikey. Randy says, where do we get your kratom? Oh, I figured everybody knew that. You just go to the Carpo's Botanicals website. If you just Google Carpo's Botanicals, my website's the first thing that pops up. I have 3 strains right now on my kratom site. I have a green Mangda, a red Mangda, and an extract UEI, which a UEI is a ultra enhanced Indo, so it's an Indonesian with extract added to it. And I dropped my prices like 25%, maybe 30% on a couple of them, and try to account for the price I was paying. I found another source, and so that's where you get my product. I don't talk about it as much, but you can find more info on my Patreon channel or on my Discord server, where I have a kratom section and herb section there. You can check that out in the link. LSD, truth. I'm with you, man. Stoner Bear says it's not a rabbit hole, it's deep. There's a lot of evidence if you look into it. My apologies, I'm going to back up a little bit here to see what that discussion was about. Because, I'm an old man now, and, oh, flat earth, gotcha. Yeah, I can't really, I couldn't address that here. I've done hours of flat earth research. I have flat earth videos where I've discussed some of these topics, and even the studies that have been shown that the earth is a sphere, people don't want to hear it, and they really don't want to believe that the earth is a sphere, but I don't understand, and to each his own. But I saw a comment on here. And Chris says, what are you trying to accomplish other than getting blocked? To Bright. Oh, I just wanted to make one note. I haven't said anything to Bright77. I try not to, but I know, I'm going to guess this, okay? I respect Bright77 because it's a subscriber of mine that I've had for a long time. So I know that you mean well. I don't know if you're a male or a female. I don't know exactly what most of your comments mean. I know that they're obscure. They might have meaning to you, and I'm not here to tell you, oh, you're a troll, or, but they don't make sense. And to me, personally, other people might think that the person's a troll, but I really think it's just their way of whatever. I don't know. I don't even know what they're talking about. Maybe it is a troll. Who fucking knows? Oh shit. So Chris says my aunt and uncle were in Desert Storm and brought back Saddam money. Yeah, they were throwing that shit out in the streets. That stuff was. Chris says he wants to get a metal detector. They're pretty cheap these days. I paid like a couple $100 for mine. Okay, so here we are. We're back to where did you get your kratom? Stoner Bear says it's not a rabbit hole. There's lots of evidence. It is interesting, but it's not true. I mean, my conclusion is totally different. There's absolutely no reason to believe that our planet is flat, but the rest of the universe is spheres. It's like when you look at a drop of rain, you look at how gravity operates on the macro and the micro level. You see that things congeal and coalesce. That you realize a flat Earth doesn't make sense. It's really a very simple thing, but um, it makes no sense. I mean, I don't know. I can't say that there's not just a blanket up there that you can cut open, and that the moon is sitting at, well, 30,000 feet, and I believe the sun, they say, is at 50,000 feet, and that all the airplanes GPSs are rigged so they think they're going somewhere they're not. And he's okay. Stoner Bear says check out Eric Dubay. Eric Dubay has been disproved. There's a phenomenal documentary, as much as people hate Netflix, on there. It was called The Flat Earth something. I don't even remember what it was called, but Eric Dubay has been disproved over and over and over. The guy is making a lot of money off of people who want to believe what he's saying. I think Eric Dubay is like one of the biggest shills in history. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I could go on for hours, I guess, but it's pointless. I don't need to believe that the Earth is anything but a sphere because it doesn't benefit me to believe it's flat. So I guess that should be enough right there. Yes. The person saying it's flat, the burden is proof is on you to use fact and peer reviewed evidence. Well, that's the thing. People don't use peer reviewed evidence when they're looking for facts anymore. They don't look at science. In fact, they believe that all the scientists, all the NASA, everyone at NASA, every single person working on the Curiosity and Mars rover expedition, the hundreds of people who you saw cheering and partying when it landed on Mars, every single astronaut who has ever left the atmosphere, that every single one of them, their genuine looks of happiness and ecstasy when they see these things is all a ploy. And if that were the case, these are some of the best actors in history. So if the fact is that every astronomer, every amateur astronomer, of which I am one of them, I have a telescope and I can see the rings of Saturn from my porch. If we're all lying, all I can say is that we're damn good liars. Damn good liars. Because it's most people. It's most people. I don't know why anybody would want to believe it's flat. Honestly, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. I think if you want to get my true, honest belief, and I don't mean this offensively, on why people believe in the flat earth, because I believe that it makes them feel like they're part of a club where they understand something that everyone else doesn't understand. That everyone else in the world is wrong, that all scientists are wrong, that history is wrong, all the measurements, that the sun is fake, that all these people are lying to us, because then we're in a small group of people who believe in something that is unique. This has happened over and over with the internet. It's called a cult. And in this case, the cult may be Eric Dubay or whoever is leading at this time. There are no specific leaders. The only thing that sets it apart from a cult is the fact that there are no real individual leaders, but they still want your money. If you go to a flat Earth convention, believe me, it's not free. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, I've heard people tell me that if you go up, I heard somebody ask, well, what happens about the space shuttle when you see the pictures from flying around in the high altitude planes and you can see the curvature? And somebody actually said the windows in those planes are actually set to make it look like the Earth is curved. It's all planned out. So it's like, how do you even argue against that? It makes no sense. And not only that, but how do you use GPS out in the middle of the ocean if there's no satellites? And what are shooting stars and meteors, and why do they fall out of the sky? And I'll just leave it at that, I guess. Inner Earth theory, that's more interesting, somebody says. Kenneth, inner Earth theory, that's funny. I've actually haven't heard of the hollow Earth theory in a really long time, but when I was young, I got really into it. In fact, when I was about, I don't know, in my early 20s, I read Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper, and I got into a lot of conspiracies, flat Earth, things like that, and I was fascinated with the idea, hollow Earth, and I was like, maybe it's possible. And I still, to this day, the only thing I still believe is that there's a possibility that there are under ocean USO bases. In other words, entire civilizations that may live under the ocean, under the floor of the ocean, tucked away safely, that can come and go freely through the ocean. The USO and the UFO reports are pretty amazing. So it's hard to kind of deny that, but other than that, I don't necessarily believe that the Earth is flat. I don't know. I don't know why it would matter. Okay, so early girl says, when sitting on the ground, my view of the window is not fish-eyed. I flew for work for years, many flights. No, yes, you're talking about airplane flights, and yes, I think that that's one's been disputed too many times by flat earthers, and I don't know why. Um, but we're talking about high altitude flights or low Earth orbit or satellite photos. Now, I want to give one bit of props, okay, to the flat earthers for something they point out that people don't often discuss. They say that you have to realize that a lot of these photos that you're seeing from NASA are actually fake photos. They're doctored or they're conglomerates or compiled through many photos. This is actually correct. When you're in low Earth orbit, it's very difficult to get a picture of the Earth. You can't see hardly any of it. And some of those photos are actually compiled through many different photos, and a lot of them aren't even real. A lot of them are simulated versions, but some of them are real. Now, if I think that one of the kind of smoking guns for flat earthers is when they talk about the moon landing as being a complete hoax. There was a time when I was younger where I thought, how stupid would you be to think the moon landing was a hoax? Then there was a period I went through where I thought, it probably was, knowing us. And then later I thought, how ridiculous. Of course we landed on the moon. It's not that hard. And then I went through another phase where I said, no, actually, eh, because I started learning about why we released all these UFO reports back in the 60s and 70s. During the Cold War, we wanted Russia to believe we had technology that we didn't really have. So, regardless of whether real UFO reports existed, we don't know. But we do know that a lot of them were faked in order to make us look superior. And so I think a lot of these reports were the same way. It gets really confusing about knowing what's true and what's not. I don't know. Dane. Hello, Dane. How did Dane get a highlighted name? How did you do that? Oh, he highlighted my name. I see. Oh, make sure you hit the thumbs up, people, because it does help. And I don't think it really matters if my live streams are promoted or not, but at least the fucking algorithm does what it does, you know. Earth Day of this year. Level by Hibbler Productions. It will put the discussion to bed, Dane says. Well, it's hard to know if you mean it'll put it to bed for me personally, or there's really not any evidence that can come to me in any documentary that's going to prove to me that the Earth is flat. Um, it just won't happen. I mean, you can say anything you want in TV, but there's too many scientific articles, too much evidence, too much astronomy. The thing is, until flat earthers can predict a solar eclipse based on their theory, I'll continue to believe in a spherical Earth. I don't know. It's a tough one. The Earth is flat. I set out to disprove flat Earth theory too, and I did, for me. They're all Freemasons. Look into it. It's a secret club, and we're not in it. Dude, I wanted to show you guys this thing I have. Where is it? Oh, I don't know where I put it. I actually have a Freemason, a 32nd degree Freemason cap, a 32nd degree or a Freemason apron, and a 32nd degree Freemason ring. Two gold Freemason rings. My grandfather was a master mason in the Freemasons. Inherited a lot of his stuff afterwards. And let me just say that 20 years ago, I believe that the Freemasons were some controlling cabal. Today, I believe that they're just a club of old men. I don't mean that offensively, but rather, if you're looking to the Freemasons for the answers for any type of secrecy, you're missing the big picture. I would urge you to go to your local lodge and ask if you can sit in with a meeting, because I guarantee you. Well, I don't know if you're a female, they might not, but it's not as secretive as you might think. It's just a bunch of old dudes. My old boss was a fucking master mason, and the guy was just a douchebag. They don't control really anything. Um, I almost joined the Freemasons, and I decided I didn't want to because my grandfather was a master mason. And I met a guy who had inherited my grandfather's mason book. Got to talking, and I realized it's just not my thing. But I have nothing against Freemasons. A lot of these are just scapegoats, and you'll find that a lot of these are just conspiracies that really go nowhere. And I don't mean. It's funny because it's taken me years of processing to get to this point where I can realize this. But when I say it to somebody who's just learning about it, they might think that, oh, you're just asleep. You haven't seen the truth yet. That the Freemasons control the world and people are drinking baby blood, whatever it might be. I'm accused of being ignorant a lot. But the truth is, I've looked into these things. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not ignorant on these topics. And believe me, the Freemasons don't have shit. Until somebody can explain asteroids to me, the Earth is a sphere. I wonder what would happen if SpaceX said, "Dear Flat Earther, we're offering you a free trip to orbit and you can bring your own camera," and they will still deny it. Actually, there was a documentary where one of the Flat Earthers decided he was going to fly up and see it for himself. He didn't really know what to make of what he saw. I think he died in the end, but he shouldn't have built a rocket like that. But there was an offer given to some of the Flat Earthers to fly up into low Earth orbit, and they won't believe it. It doesn't matter. Because I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. It doesn't matter to me. I realize that people can make evidence fit whatever they want it to fit, and that's okay. I've come to my own conclusion. Supposedly Tom Cruise is going to the International Space Station to film a movie soon. I would not be surprised at all, early girl. In fact, it's funny you say that. It's like when I first read that, I thought it said the international or the interdimensional station. I was thinking, oh, that's probably possible too, knowing today. And writing in spite of being capable in other areas and having a normal amount of classroom instruction. The definition of dyslexia. Yeah, I know. My neighbor has it. Kenneth says, is it true that there's a skull on the reverse side of the apron? I heard someone say that last year. Nope. In fact, if you guys want to see it, I'll grab it for you. I think it's right here somewhere. Let's see. Where did it go? It's not the kind of thing that I really take care of, and I probably should. But no. Can't find it. There's honestly nothing on the reverse of any of their stuff. My grandfather's apron, on the very back of the apron. On the front, it's got the, um, the thing is people misunderstand the meaning of these symbols, but this compass and the square, it's about writing yourself being correct, being level. I'll tell you a quick story, okay, and then I'll answer the question about the apron is no. On the back of the apron, on the front it has the symbol, and it's got tassels. It's made of lamb's lamb's leather, I think. And on the back it says, or no, on the back it says nothing. On the front it says, you lift up the flap and it says raised, and then it shows the year that they were raised. And raised is when they were brought into the Fraternal Order of the Freemasons. And my grandfather says 1951. And it's just written in marker. It's very low profile. It's not a big deal. He had a couple of different rings and whatnot, but the Freemason. When I went to so I went to a home and garden show, and I was working for my father and or no, my company at the time, my own business. I was working as a carpenter, and I started my own business. Called it Above the Level. Finished carpentry and like cabinets, custom stuff. So I'm sitting there at the home and garden show. We rented a booth, paid for it and everything. I was sitting there giving out business cards, and some guy walked up to me and he started asking me. He goes, "Hey, are you a Freemason?" I was like, "No." He was like, "But my grandfather was, but not me." And he's like, "Really?" He's like, "I just wondered because the name of your company is Above the Level. And I didn't know if you know, but Freemasons, one of the terms, the slogans for Freemasonry is on the level." And I was like, actually, I did know that, but when I started the company, I wasn't aware. I picked the name on kind of a whim because the name I wanted was taken. And we got to talking, and he I was like, he's like, "Your grandfather was a Freemason, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "What was his name?" I told him Bob Watts. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "Where was he from, Estacada?" Boom. It was like weird moment. This random guy who had asked me if I was a Freemason out of the blue because of my company name, his the when a Mason dies, his Bible, his Masonry book is passed down to another member. He got my grandfather's book. He had it with all the stuff and the inscriptions in it and everything. I was like, this is weird. And he started telling me, you should go down to your local lodge, and talk to them. And I said, well, I'm a felon. I got busted for growing weed. And they're like, oh, they don't really care about that. So I did more research, got to know more about the Freemasons, even though at the time I'd already spent 10 years thinking the Freemasons were this giant cult of conspiratorial baby killers or something. Like, I didn't know any better. Of course, find out that that's not the truth at all. And I decided it wasn't for me. I didn't want to join their lodge because it was just too not my thing. But maybe someday. Maybe someday. Who knows? Yes, Carpo may be a Freemason one day. What are you going to do about it? Stoner Bear says, it's simple. The government and NASA have been caught lying, and in fact, all they've done is lie. Yeah, they do lie. You're right, but not every amateur astronomer lies, and not every astronaut lies. I'm sorry, you just can't assume that every single person who works on the Mars rover mission lies. It just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. When you really look at the big picture, I mean, it's easy to think that one group lies, like NASA, but have you ever seen a rocket successful, like space station launch or connection? And when you're actually watching mission control, now go back and watch some of these amazing moments, and watch mission control, and watch the faces of each individual person in mission control as the event happens. You can't fake that shit. I'm sorry. I don't care. I have seen a lot of bullshit and a lot of great acting out there, but you cannot get that many people at once to fake an experience like that. Now you might say, well, they're all watching a screen that's not really happening. Maybe so. But then you get down to multi-trillion-dollar operations just to hide the shape of the earth. It's really silly. It really makes no sense when you come down to it. In my opinion, anyway. She says, I just don't know, I don't know, and I don't know it all, but I'm trying to learn. Well, yeah. You and the rest of us, dear. Cheers to that. I'm trying to learn too. I am. And the reason I argue against things like flat earth and various conspiracies is not because I'm trying to prove myself. It's not because I'm trying to prove you wrong. It's because I'm trying to teach people that often these things aren't what they think they are. If we can take that much more time that we would be focused on thinking somebody else is lying and really look at the big picture, the multi-conglomerates, the corporate interests, those who are raping the earth and pillaging our environment, that's where the real problems are. It has nothing to do with the shape of the earth. there are a lot of distractions out there. There really are. But I don't worry too much myself about the shape of the earth. I guess I'm just living on the part of it I'm living on, right? So I'm gonna grab one more thing and I'll be right back, and then I'm gonna go. Like I said last time. Like I said last time. Hmm. Well, anyway, I guess I better go. I'll take my vintage carp bottle opener, open a beer. I just saw the name Shapiro pop up. The hell? Is this turning into a cesspool? The truth will set you free. Yeah, the truth has not set me free yet. Yeah, it's cool. I don't really have any intention on proving the fucking earth is any shape to anyone, to be honest. Anyway, I've never seen any. I never seen any groups so animated as either the flat earthers or the conspiracy groups, which are like really animated and they're really excited about convincing others that things are a certain way. And since I was one of those people for a long time, I started wondering who am I trying to convince? Is it really other people or is it myself? And what is my purpose for doing this? And if you look back to my YouTube channel about 10 years ago when I first started it, um, I was into everything. Like I said, I'd read conspiracy websites and books, and then I started looking, and I'm going to tell you, for anybody who wants me to, learn about a certain topic or learn about a certain conspiracy, I want to give you this one sentence. That I tried to think of the one sentence that sums up how I feel about learning about things, the truth, rather, right? The truth. How does this benefit me? And not in a selfish way, but rather every single thing when I ask, okay, if I'm going to delve into something and watch a bunch of documentaries or read a bunch of books about something, how does this benefit me or my fellow man or the world? So when it comes to the flat earth, I have not come up with a single thing. In fact, the groups I've talked to, the people, their attitudes I've had from people who do believe it, when I tell them I don't, has shown me that there's no mutual respect there whatsoever. I'm just the dumb round earther. And in that case, I've thought, okay, they have their little group. They want to believe what they want. When I've asked them specifically, why do you want to convince me the earth is not round? I'll say, they won't give me an answer. It's like, because the truth will set you free. Like you said, somebody said, it's like, but it doesn't. The truth does not set you free. That's an illusion. You do not learn about life by studying the obscure or the weird things. The things that going against the mainstream has never benefited me in any way. I don't know. What has benefited me is letting go of all that shit. And it's just like letting go of a lot of the spiritual teaches or spiritual teachings, letting go of the belief in demons and gods and any of that. Just letting go of all that shit. I'm not even searching whatsoever for any type of entity of a higher power. I'm not saying I don't believe in one. I'm saying that I believe the universe is conscious. God is within everything. The universe is unfolding. Evolution is consciousness. It's just a big complicated thing we don't understand. But I have to understand this life right now. And in this life, I don't need to know all the details about why things happen the way they do, but there's something in me that wants to know. So I naturally look at every angle. When I was into the flat earth study, I went down every rabbit hole. There's nothing you can show me that I haven't already looked into. Still have not received a single answer as to what matters, why it matters, what shape the earth is. And that was, I guess, the point I was going to make. It just doesn't matter. The things that do matter are helping my fellow man, helping as much as I can to understand the people around me and helping them understand each other. I know it sounds stupid, but the reason I still do this channel is for that one email I get every couple months where somebody's like, dude, something you said really changed my life for the better. And I was about to, I don't know, I hate to even bring this up, but I've had a couple people send me emails saying that they were contemplating suicide. And then I gave them a little bit of a reason to think deeper. And that for me alone was like, wow, holy shit. I'm not thinking I saved their lives. They saved their own lives. They would have found it in someone else. But the fact I was there at that right moment meant a lot to me. I think the little things matter so much more than the big things, but we get so wrapped up in the big things. We really want to know everything about what's going on, why the universe works the way it does. I don't even care about aliens anymore. I don't care whether Bigfoot exists or, who in the government is doing what. None of that shit matters. All that matters is how is your life going? So how is your life going? Tell me. I believe in weird shit. It just hasn't affected me in a way that I really think it's that important. Defend it. The rockets go up in a big curve. This is what I'm talking about, Stoner Bear. You see, once you talk about flat Earth once, people get so hung up on it they won't stop talking about it. It's just totally pointless to keep going on about flat Earth. I expressed my opinion, you expressed yours. It's all good. We all see things differently. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. And like you said, you're not trying to convince me of anything, so let it go. Talk about something else like Jeebus. Um, I consider myself a pretty intelligent person, relatively. Therefore, when I give my opinion and I tell people I do not believe that the earth is flat and that I've done my research, I feel like I'm obligated to say that because people can decide, well, I trust this guy's opinion or I don't. I can look into it myself or I can't. When you have these guys that seem like they're very credible and they're talking about things as if they know that they're facts, like somebody brought up Eric Dubay. I mean, the fact that anybody would even think Eric Dubay is a credible, source is, it's fucking mind blowing to me. No offense. I mean, the guy's just totally uncredible. I mean, and hey, maybe so am I, but I'm not pretending to be credible. I gotta get my lighter. Hold on a sec. I think that's the problem. There's a credibility issue. And that really brings me to a topic I wanted to discuss the other day, which was about who do you trust and why. There's some people who actually listen to Ben Shapiro. I mean, there are people who listen to Tucker Carlson, just like there are people who listen to Jake Tapper or people on the left. And that's just political. There are people who listen to Buddhist teachers, people who listen to Hindu teachers, some of these fake ass gurus from India that, just because you have a fancy name and a turban on doesn't mean you know shit about spirituality. Or like Eckhart Tolle, just because he sits quietly and pauses for half of his discussions doesn't mean he knows anything. And who am I to say these things? I'm a guy who has my own opinion on stuff, and I realize that if I don't have to take myself seriously, then I don't have to take others seriously either. Because if people are taking themselves seriously, then they're being too serious. Life is too short to be too serious. For real. For real. I'm going to go back through these real quick comments here. Something about spacesuits. Taypan says, I'm at such a weird point in life that I'm not sure who I'm going to be when I wake up the next day. That's interesting because I kind of feel that way sometimes. It's more like I wake up at 5 in the morning and worry about all the shit that I should do as a human being, as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a, creature of this universe. And I'm not sure. But once I wake up, I actually become the same person, and yeah, we just make it through, don't we? Stoner Bear says, it does when they don't want you to know about the land that's beyond Antarctica. That's okay, they can keep it. I've heard that there's an ice wall and you fall off a cliff, so, I mean, if there's land beyond Antarctica, they can have it. I don't leave my domain. I live in Washington and I love it here. Yeah, good for Antarctica. I've heard about the ice walls. Believe me, sister. Stoner Bear, dude, I totally respect where you're coming from. I'm well aware of the ice walls, Antarctica. I've looked at the sun and the moon and the charts and the various maps and graphs that the Flat Earth Society has. I've looked at the diagrams showing how the sun moves and the earth moves, moon moves supposedly at 30 and 50,000 feet. I've also asked people, how the hell does the sun stay the same size through the sky the entire day when it's hundreds, if not 1,000 miles away? And I haven't got a good answer to that. But the point being, it doesn't. I'm much more likely to believe that we're floating in space with planets and a sun than I am to believe that the sun is just a fake ball in the sky and the moon is a fake ball in the sky, and somehow NASA and the government have conspired to create a fake sun and moon themselves and a blanket over the sky and a fake space. It's really silly. It's really silly. Anyway. Infected Chris, he says, regarding those people like Shapiro or Tucker, you can listen to what they say and do with it what you will. No one's forcing anyone to believe them. This is absolutely true, and that's really the main point I guess I was trying to make there. I have a friend who sends me links to stuff like Tucker Carlson. I was like, you should know I don't listen to this guy. I mean, come on, really. He's a rabble rouser. He's not there for actual facts. He's there for money. But anyway. Stoner Bear says, I'm not trying to convince everybody. Everybody's trying to make me convince them. No, you can have your opinion. Totally get it. I mean, everybody's got their opinion. There's an old slogan, I think you know where I'm going with this. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. It's not just that, it's everybody has one and they stink half the time. And, I don't know, like I've had debates with some, like for example, people in my personal life that I've discussed things with and we have different opinions on a subject or a topic. Usually we can walk away respectful. I have a friend who's a Trump supporter. I won't say a Trump supporter, but I hear my dog whimpering. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Is everything okay out there? Lucy, no. Stop. Dog's trying to escape. Trying to get out the fence. I'm at my back office here. That's where I do my videos. So anyway, what was I gonna say? I forgot the point. Anyway, the beauty is that I don't really. I've got to the point in my life where I just don't give a shit what other people believe, and that doesn't mean that I won't listen. It doesn't mean I don't care. It's just that I'm never going to try to prove myself to other people. So I have people who I have discussions with who, when we disagree on something, they actually take it personal. They can't handle the fact that I don't agree. I'm like, let's move on. But you have to know this is important. It's like, no, I really don't, actually. It's this idea that being woke means you have to distrust every single person in government, every person who has money, every person basically who's not you or in your group. I look at it like the new religion. Flat earthers are like another religion. They don't care about outsiders. They don't want to hear anybody else's opinion. It's basically just discounting science. And I'm a science guy. Yeah, I like science. Real science. It's my opinion, though. And anyway, with that said, cheers to science. I realized that most beliefs in something extraneous, external, or alternative that people believe nobody else knows. For example, like believing in the Earth being flat or believing in reptilians, whatever it may be. It gives people a sense of community, purpose, and understanding when they can connect with other people who also believe this. And let me say, I say this from a guy who's a fucking loner, who grew up without any group or clique or community. But once I discovered the Grateful Dead and I started going to Dead shows, I found people who related to me. When I started going to these shows and I started meeting people who liked the same music, I realized they also liked taking psychedelics, and we had this connection. But sometimes I would miss a person, or meet a person, most of the time I would meet a person, who didn't really understand the music at all, who didn't listen to music, who didn't seem to, quote, get it, who wasn't turned on, who had never taken drugs or tried psychedelics. And I would think, this person doesn't get it. They're missing out. But I was wrong. Every time I would think that, they're not missing out. They have their own thing. And I think it's the same way with finding a community anywhere else. Whether it's listening to a Grateful Dead concert or going to a flat earth convention, if that's what moves you, so be it. The difference is, I've never, ever tried to force the Grateful Dead on people or say that they're dumb because they don't like it. Christians do the same thing as flat earthers a lot of the time, saying, well, you just need to wake up to this truth or else you're just getting fooled. And I think it's a foolish notion. That's my opinion on it. Like anything else. Tay Pan says, my most solid belief is that I'm a confirmed fool and that I might be wrong about everything, and right or wrong isn't going to change much either way. You're a smart human being. That's exactly how I feel. I make mistakes. I fuck up. I'm not always right. In fact, I'm not going to say I'm seldom right, because I really try to be right. And because of that, I realize when I'm wrong, and I try not to make that same mistake again. So I've earned my stripes, if you will, as far as not fucking up. It doesn't mean I take all the actions I should. It just means I don't take actions I shouldn't. Right? I don't harm people or abuse myself. It's like, I don't know, we got to learn our limits, learn what works for us. Anyway, I'm going to get going now. It's getting late. It was good talking to you all, and I appreciate you all coming to visit. Hi, Chris says music can be the great uniter. You are absolutely right. Arthurius, what up, my peeps and peepers? Hello, Arthurius. It's good to see you, my friend. You're coming in right at the end here, but maybe. I don't know. I feel guilty making live streams. I'll just be brutally honest here. Um, my oldest son was out there playing guitar with a friend of his that they jammed with. We were playing out in the woods. His name's Craig. Meanwhile, my wife was in there, and then the kids were in there, and they were playing, and I can hear people out there doing stuff, and I'm in here with you all. So it's like a weird feeling because I enjoy doing a live stream. I like talking to people and sharing my thoughts, but at the same time, I feel obligated to be in there. But I guess I'm in there all the time, so it's just a perspective thing. Perspective is everything, right? So I hope you all have a fantastic evening. Make sure that you hug somebody you love. If anybody wants to talk about COVID at all, just let me know here before I go, and I'll mention if you have any questions or thoughts. I try not to bring it up because it's such a pain in the ass. I live in Washington, and in Oregon, they just went back into like some extreme risk bullshit. And believe me, a year ago, I was saying, hey, I support lockdowns and masks and to get this over with. But that was back when I thought, well, we can get testing and vaccines and be done with it. Now the vaccines are being hoarded by Western countries. Other countries aren't getting any, meaning that it's going to mutate there, then come back to here again. I'm personally not really so sure how to feel about any of it at all, but I know a lot of people don't want to talk about it. People have heard enough about COVID. But I just thought if anybody had any final questions about it before I go, I could spend another 5 minutes on this because, so like in Oregon, they went back into extreme risk. They're closing restaurants. Meanwhile, places like IKEA and Home Depot can remain open. Now, look, we're going to go to Lowe's and get some lumber. It's great that they're open, but it doesn't, the fact that they are open and restaurants aren't is bullshit. There's no reason for that and no evidence that restaurants are the problem. As a parent with two young kids who are still in school, the school's being closed, going twice a week now. They expect the kids to go twice a week in my district. Then they go Tuesdays and Fridays, and in between they're supposed to do work on the other days by logging in remotely. And it's then they've had like out of the 10 days they've had, like half of them have been half days, and we just had an increase in $1,200 in taxes to our school district where I live. So I'm like, okay, look, I respect teachers, I respect paying the schools, I like that they're fixing things up and that the kids are taken care of, but this is bullshit. Keeping kids out that much, the kids aren't getting the education they deserve. But is COVID worth shutting down the schools? I did at the beginning. I thought it was, and now I'm starting to really disagree with my own assessment. Um, but maybe I still stand by the original assessment because nobody was really sure. And once the evidence showed itself, it was important that we went along with it, and it became partisan, political. It became more about I'm in the anti-mask crowd, so I refuse to wear one anywhere. And the other person who says, I'm in the mask crowd, therefore I'm a politician, a congresswoman who's going to sit here and say, I already have a vaccine, but I'm going to wear two masks on top of my vaccine because I care about people. At the beginning, I never realized that masks would not just be political for the right, but political for the left. I didn't see how far people would dig in their heels. It is preposterous. COVID has turned people into fucking idiots. I don't know what else to say about it. It's crazy. So yeah, if anybody has any COVID thoughts or questions, just let me know. Otherwise, there's not much else I can say about it. Okay, Arthurius says today I was in Walmart and they announced they had 3 free vaccines ready for anyone who wants them. Well, here's the thing: in the U.S., they had a shortage of vaccines, as we know, for a long time. Then they had a surplus. All of a sudden, almost overnight, within the last couple of weeks, nobody wants them anymore. So now they had to change from just 16 and older to anybody who wants one, come get it. A lot of these have a limited shelf life, so they're like, we've got to get these out there. Only like 40% of people or 20% in some places have been vaccinated and nobody wants any. It's like, what does that tell you? Tells you most people just don't give a shit at this point. And that is scary because I care and I realize what herd immunity is, but I also realize the limits of science and these vaccines. And I think people are smart enough to say, hey, if you're at risk or working a job where you need to, do it. If not, why bother? We think we might have already had it. And a friend of mine, and one of my subscribers even, Logic said he got one, and it gave him like flu-like symptoms for 3 days. Who the fuck wants that from a vaccine? How likely is it? We don't know because we're not getting any straight answers. We're not getting any statistics. And meanwhile, America's hoarding these vaccines. Even though we have more than we need, all the rich countries got their share. 130 countries out of like 200 don't have any vaccine at all. 130 countries weren't even on the list because they're not wealthy enough. But you got to realize this is like letting the incubator flow in these countries. When India recently, started having intense cases, I was not surprised at all. I was wondering why this didn't happen last year. And I think I know why. And this is what I've been analyzing the whole time. Countries and provinces and areas where there's a lot of travel, especially certain cities like New York, Seattle, LA, these are the places where the major outbreaks were because naturally people traveled all around the world to these places. In some of the places in India, there are villages where nobody really goes. But once it starts to spread, it takes a long time. I remember at the beginning of COVID saying this is going to take us like years to overcome. And people were like, the same shit. No, we'll be over in a couple months. We'll get a vaccine. We'll be done with it. It's like, dude, it's a coronavirus. It'll mutate just like SARS did. And if we don't get this one under wraps, we're fucked. And here we are. We're fucked. So if anybody else has any thoughts on that, please let me know. It's creepy. Honestly, I don't want the shot, but I'm not too concerned with I think if I did, it wouldn't be a big deal. My wife is a server. She works at a restaurant, and she can get one. I told her, hey, if you want to get one, don't use my reluctance, to determine whether you get one. I won't look down on you if you get one. I think that's fine for a lot of people. She'd probably handle it fine, but I also know her immune system is great. She'd handle the virus fine. And so the thing is, I believe that the people who are susceptible to the virus are also susceptible to the vaccine. And therefore, maybe the vaccine is better. They're better off with the vaccine than the virus. So if you have a reaction, maybe you would have a worse reaction to the virus. But we don't know. There's no studies. We don't know which genetics, have a problem with this virus. And that makes it really tough for us to actually do anything about it. But like every year, they try to give away free flu vaccines. Come on in and get your flu. I've never had one in my life. My mom used to. Now she's totally anti-vax because, as Kenneth just says, at my local CVS, they're paying people $20 to get the flu vaccine. That's just weird because there ain't no fucking flu this year. Like, the cases are just like zero. But they're just being overly cautious. I get protecting the elderly, and I had a totally different tone a year ago. Hey, protect our most vulnerable. I get that. But at this point, we know what we're up against. Take care of the most vulnerable. I just heard some screaming. Sorry, that threw me off. Tapan says COVID went through my immediate family twice now. We may have had it 2 to 3 times. Who knows? Or I should say, we've had 2 to 3 illnesses come through this household in the last year. I've got 2 young kids and an older son who worked in a warehouse. One of his buddies just tested positive at his work last week, and a guy he works with, and he said he'd given him a hug, and they work like close together every day. You just never know, and so far no issues. Maybe we've already had it. We don't know, but I feel like the mutations are going to be worse. So I'm not really too worried about it right now. I think it's going to hit us later. Amy says, you're still here. I had to go out. Yes, I am. I am still here. I don't know why after 2 hours. I should go. Shit, it's like 9:20. Yeah, I better go. My wife will probably get annoyed that I'm out here too long. Not that she's like that or anything, but just I would be annoyed with myself for being gone this long. But it's like I don't get many opportunities to do a live cast. There's only a few times where I really feel up to it and into it. And when I do, I always go on for like 2 hours. Dib says, the celebrities are getting the jab. You should too. Yeah, I know. That's sarcasm. I The jab. It's so funny you use that. I really hate that fucking term. I think so many people hate that term. The jab. Yeah, I have no interest in getting it. I don't want a shot. I don't like needles. Um, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I gave my kids their basic vaccines reluctantly. Didn't get them the extra ones, Hep and all that stuff. I don't remember which ones were like the optional, but I just gave them the very bare minimum MMR and a couple others to get them into polio and whatnot, to get them into school. And they did fine. I've got good genetics enough to where I don't react to vaccines. My kids didn't. My wife didn't. It's not a big problem here. It's just that I don't trust the science behind the current vaccines being promoted by Moderna or Johnson and Johnson or any of them. So I'm kind of wary about that shit. Early Girl says, we put so much unknown crap in our bodies. I get the shots. Consider them perfect, but it was my best attempt to do a good thing for everyone. Well, see, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. To try to do the right thing for other people. And that's the attitude I have as well. That's why I'm torn. It's not that I'm anti-vaccine. It's just like, I'm just kind of wary about going into a place and having a shot. It's not my thing at all, believe me. I've had lots of shots. Most of them have gone in my mouth because I've had a lot of dental work done. But yeah, I just don't feel like I don't really need to get a shot at this moment. Kind of wary. Chris says he's heading off. Good night, Chris. It's good to talk to you. Thanks for coming, my friend. So, yeah, it's good to talk to you all. And I'm out. I'm going to upload. I have a couple videos. I think I'm just going to post them to my Patreon because they were just kind of rambles. And I don't like to put those on my main channel here, but maybe I will. We'll see. Other than that, I'll talk to y'all next time. Let me know what you want to hear about. Come back to this and leave a comment. I'll leave this one posted. Often the lives I get rid of. But leave a comment. Let me know what you want to hear about certain topics. I've had a lot of thoughts on my mind lately, but certain topics are totally worth talking about, whatever they may be. So, peace. I'm out. Latro.